Okay, let's get into this week's big topic. And ahead of the return to competitive football, the question for today is, what's stopping Celtic going on to win the domestic treble this year? And before I ask for your initial responses to that, just a wee bit of further information. So, absolutely not saying that a treble is an easy thing to come by, much as it felt like that in recent years. In Celtic's 135-year history, we've only done so, how many times, James? Seven times, which is pretty hard to imagine when you think of our dominance at times across Scottish football. Even more surprising, as we know, is that 4 of those 7 trebles have occurred in the last 5 years. The others were in the 66-67 season and the 68-69 season under Jock Stein, and then in Martin O'Neill's first season in 2000 and 2001. Only 27 teams in world football have won more than one treble across the whole of football, so it's really quite fascinating. I'll share a link to some interesting things as well in the show notes. Matt, your initial response to that question, and as I say, it's not an easy thing to win a treble, is it?
No, it's not. What could possibly stop us? Loss of momentum for the World Cup break is one possible reason. It's gave the others time to regroup. And when I say others, I don't just specifically mean Rangers, I just mean when you're playing week in, week out, you build that momentum, you know, the belief grows. That stopping could, I'm just saying could, don't necessarily think it will, but it could have an impact. And I think the most obvious one is VAR. The way it's been implemented and the way that the standard to which Celtic have been refereed, to which it's been held with. I mean, even more surprising when you see some of the calls that have been made at the World Cup, for example. It's almost like referees then just take their own personal opinion on that day based on the stage that they're on to implement decisions rather than
consistency.
Just have a consistent set of rules. I suppose it's always got to be subjective because it's down to the opinion of a team on the day. But I just think it makes the decisions that we've been subjected to, both domestic and in the Champions League, even more glaring. So it's very obvious that something like that can crop up where you get on the wrong end of the decision. The Hearts handball, we didn't get the handball at home to Ross County. It was given against us. I think it was the fastest award of a penalty I've ever seen in my life for such a strange incident. Really unbelievable. I think it was even outside the box as well. I know I'm still going on about it, but just absolute. Plus, then there was the Jota offside that for the camera angle, my mum's tower, which was impressive. So, really, for me,
it's not even that decision. It's the cack-handed
it's
excuses that keep changing.
It's the implementation of a system which clearly isn't up to scratch.
And what's interesting there is, obviously you've given your initial response. I've highlighted what I think are the 3 potential threats to Celtic doing a treble. 1 is injuries, 2 is the loss of key personnel in other ways, and 1 is the potential threat from the opposition. I've not even mentioned VAR, I've not even mentioned the lack of momentum, so you're absolutely right to highlight them, and we'll get into it in a wee bit more detail just in a second. But James, your initial response, is there anything to stop us there, or do you think we'll go on and do the treble?
The reason trebles are so hard is because 2 of them involve knockout football, and knockout football is cruel. You know, if you throw VAR into the mix there when something could be taken off you, Ronnie Dyla and Inverness Cali, then that's how easy it is to take a cup away from someone. So that's the biggest challenge. I'm spot on. That's the biggest challenge on getting 3 trophies this season. I think we're playing good football. We're playing it tight as a unit. We've got McGregor coming back. We've got new guys coming in. It's all looking good as far as what's on the pitch goes. The only thing I can see stopping us winning the treble is VAR.
Yeah, I mean, 7 trebles in 135 years of Celtic history show you just how rare that is. So, tell you what I'll do, let's look at some of the key factors that stand in the way between us and a first treble under Ange Postecoglou. I'll give you the kind of lie of the land at the moment though for Celtic. So, in terms of the Scottish Premiership, we're 9 points clear at the top after 15 games. We've won 14 of those games and lost 1 to St Mirren, so 23 games to play. The League Cup, which is now called the Viaplay Cup, which is fun. We're at the semi-final stage of that, where we'll play Kilmarnock at Hampden on Saturday, 14th of January. Rangers play Aberdeen in the other semi-final, so we'd play 2 games from now if we're going to win that tournament. And in the Scottish Cup, which once again sits with no sponsor, well done Scottish football, your flagship trophy, no sponsor again. We're in the 4th round of that, where we play Morton at Celtic Park on Saturday, 21st of January. And if we are to go on and win the Scottish Cup, that would be a further 5 games. So a total, potentially, of 30 games for Celtic between this Saturday, 17th of December, and the Scottish Cup final, which is on Saturday, the 3rd of June this year, or next year, 2023. So that's 30 games, as I say, in 24 weeks. So it's not too condensed. We've had a tight schedule before the World Cup there. It's a wee bit more relaxed, moving forward. League-wise, James, I think it would take a real collapse to not go and win it from here. I really do, and that's my opinion. I think the biggest threat to that, however, could be complacency. What do you think?
There's no way complacency exists in Ange's squad, training pitch, games, no way. Particularly coming back now, the message will be, let's get back into focus. I just don't think that's a word that ever gets onto Ange's team talk.
Yeah, okay. Miff, Paddy stated early bells that he thought we would win the title by around about 20 points, and he's sticking with that. What do you think of that prediction?
Yeah, I don't see it as being as much as that, and I think I said that at the time when he said it. As much as I'd love it to be true, I just think 20 points is a huge gap. It would need us to maintain a level of form which would probably see us go unbeaten, not even unbeaten, win every game to the end of the season. Then, whilst both of those things could happen, I don't think they will. Mainly because this season is an unknown, because it's been broken up halfway through. We just don't know how that's going to affect the rhythm of both Celtic and the rest of the teams in the league. So I'm hopeful that we can just win all the rest of our games. You go in expecting us to win every game, but with there being a break in the season, it's just something completely new. So I think you just need to sit back and wait and see it. I think we just need to be mindful of that as fans, that we've built up a brilliant lead, played some excellent football. Did feel like we just kind of needed the break at the time, to be fair, but everybody knew it was coming. So I suppose it's a psychological thing. You're running to a mid-season sprint, so you're just want to get there, get through the games, get the points in the bag, and move on. So my hope is that we come back, we're refreshed. We've got our captain back, which just is excellent news for us, and that just sees a continuation of the form that we showed prior to the shutdown. But at the same time, it would be understandable if maybe the first few performances were sluggish. Yeah,
and that form in the run-up to the break, as I mentioned, James, 8 wins on the bounce since Callum McGregor got injured, and it was Celtic were really exceptional during those times, and ground out a couple of big wins, some late winners and what have you, but generally speaking they finished at a pretty ferocious pace. And the hope is, after the disruption, Miff, that we can pick up on the other side. As you mentioned, James, cups are very different. So, the league's played out over 38 games, and by and large the best team more often than not win the league. And the cup, anything can happen, and we've now potentially got 2 games to win the League Cup. So Kilmarnock in the semi, which we should be confident of taking care of, obviously newly promoted Kilmarnock, and Rangers take on Aberdeen in the other. It is a good chance to pick up the first trophy of the season, isn't it?
Of course, and it's a trophy Ange likes, because it gave me his first bit of silverware in Scotland, so they'll be well focused on that. And just you're saying about the 8 games that they won in McGregor's absence, it was also in very challenging circumstances when VAR was at it. Some Hearts and Motherwell, things like that. So no, but I just mean there's mental fortitude in those players. Not only have you lost your captain, you've overcome adversity as well to get those. Mm-hmm. And I think they'll pick that back up. I understand what I'm saying about, it might be a bit sluggish the first couple of games, but I think they'll be jumping at the bit.
They should be, and we'll see how it goes. Saturday being the first test of that at Pittodrie. If we're to be successful in the League Cup, that final would be on Sunday, 26th of February. As you say, James, it was the first trophy that Ange won here, and it does give you a bit of momentum, and you can't do a treble without the League Cup, and I think there'll be a lot of focus on that. So that game against Kilmarnock's coming up pretty soon. Miff, the Scottish Cup's trickier, so you've got 5 games in total to win if we're to lift that trophy. We've got Morton on the 21st of January, and what would be the first of those 5 games, and it's the one that Ange hasn't won yet, so he'll be keen to put that right.
Well, yes, I would imagine so, and the fact we're at home against lower league opposition is brilliant. It's a type of draw that you want, but I think the way Ange approaches things, he just tries to win every game, and I think that's why he's such a great fit for us. That mentality of continually trying to improve, be better in the next game than you were in the one before. It's such a great mantra to have at a club like Celtic, where the expectation for the fans is that you go and win every game. So I think it's just further confirmation of what a great meeting of minds it is between Celtic and Ange. But yeah, I think understanding Ange's psyche as we do now, further, a year and a bit down the line, the fact he's not won the Scottish Cup, he will want to put that right.
Staying on the Scottish Cup, so overall in the history of the Scottish Cup since it began in 1873, there have been 25 winners of the Scottish Cup. Celtic hold the record with 40 Scottish Cup wins. Next is Rangers on 34. And Celtic just traditionally have always had a great relationship with the Scottish Cup, and it's the best way to finish your season. There's no doubt about it. It's great to win the league, it's great to win League Cups early on, but sun splitting the trees at Hampden, as I say, it's going to be 3rd of June, James. It's always one to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first big win was 1985 Scottish Cup final.
1985.
So I'm very old. It's just it gives you that kind of like Hampden, and it was blazing sunshine and Frank McGarvey and all the good things, So I think every Celtic fan has a close connection with that because of how many good times we've had at Hampden there.
Yeah, I think everyone's got their special memories. So hopefully we're at that on the 3rd of June 2023. Miff, as I'd mentioned there a wee bit earlier on in this conversation, for me there are 3 key threats to the potential of doing a treble. It's injuries, it's losing some players in January, and it's the opposition and whatever they're doing. Let's start with injuries. So last year we lost some key players at key times, guys like Kyogo, Jota, Giakoumakis, to name a few. This year we've already had to do without Callum McGregor for a spell recently, as well as Carter Vickers, Starfelt, he's been in and out. And even with the best sports science, training, prep, etc., an injury can happen to any footballer at any time. So you can't, just presume that you're going to get away with that. Manuel Neuer's season's over after he picked up a broken leg skiing after World Cup. That is madness. I don't know.
Is he insured for that?
I've no idea, but there must be something in his contract to say,
there definitely will be.
Don't go skiing in December, please. So that's a strange one. But yeah, point being though, you can fall down the stairs at home, whatever. So, I mean, what do you think of that, James? There's obviously, that will always be a situation in football, and
it's different this year than it was last year. It'll be different again next year in terms of constant development and strengthening of the overall squad. Last year we were bringing in players that just weren't quite at the levels. This year we've replaced Callum McGregor with Matt O'Reilly and slipped Moy in the midfield, and Hatati's doing a lot of good work there as well. It just is different, and this is all part of the work from Mark Law and Ange and the rest of the team to make sure that, because like you say, things can happen and they know that, and they're planning for contingencies on when things do happen. So I think the squad is good. It's got work to go, and we'll see that in January, and we'll see it in the summer again, but I'm pretty comfy with the way the squad is at the moment.
Yeah, and what we're seeing this time around is less by way of these, what they would call soft tissue injuries, like the hamstring injuries we've seen so many of last year. McGregor's a good case in point. It was an impact injury. He took an impact on the knee in Leipzig, and that's what's put him out. I mean, you can always mitigate against injury, but you can't fully protect against it, but you can make sure your squad's in a good place.
No, you can, and I think you remember last year we went without Kyogo for a long period of time. That was when we were really thankful for Giakoumakis standing up and scoring the goals that he did. So Ange has proven that the way that he wants the squad to be managed is through having replacements for every position. That you're getting that vibe that we're strong in every position. There is a replacement if anybody drops out, but as will always happen in football, you'll have your better players. So Vickers, McGregor being 2 of our best, and we've managed to get by without them at different points this year. So I think that speaks a lot about the squad depth, but also the performances of the players that have come in, because they've maintained that winning run.
Yeah, there's no about it. It's the strength and depth that we've spoken about so often. The second biggest threat for me would be who may go out the door in January. So obviously the big talk at the moment is Josip Juranovic and Georgios Giakoumakis. For me, I think we can deal with the Juranovic one, no problem. We've brought in the replacement already, and Johnson and Ralston's already there. Less so with Giakoumakis, James. So at the moment, I would say him and Kyogo are the only recognised number 9s at the club. So that would be a trickier one to replace, and I'm not sure if we could deal with that right now.
No, I wouldn't encourage that at all. Even if Giakoumakis stays, I think we need a striker. I think we need a young, hungry guy who's going to go and just bang in 30 a year. So if Giakoumakis goes, you need 2. There is part of, if he stays and he doesn't play as he can, he might as well be away. So they'll know from the conversations they've had, Ange and Giakoumakis, where his head's at. And if his head's not right, I love the big man. He's my kind of striker. But if he's not going to commit, get him out.
I agree with that, and it seems quite harsh and cutthroat, doesn't it? But the suggestion is, we heard through a friend of ours over a week or so ago that he changed agent, and that talk is now effectively being confirmed. And you only change agent if you're looking to instigate a change in circumstances. Agents don't get paid if nothing's happening. If you're just sitting on your current deal, agent doesn't get paid any sort of commission. However, if you do get an improved term or you get a big move elsewhere, that's when everyone cashes in. And I wonder how Ange responds to that. We know how he is as a person, and he definitely takes the approach that if someone doesn't want to be here in any way, shape or form, then they can go. And I wonder if Ange has seen that change in circumstance with Giakoumakis and his agent and thought, oh, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah. Giakoumakis is in no position this season to ask for more money. Finishing last season strong, absolutely. This season, he's not hit the heights. He's had his chances and he's not taken them. So if you want to get more money, or if you want to get a move, score goals.
Score goals, play better. He's been decent, but maybe not much more than decent.
Yep.
I think it just falls into that one again. Lessons learned for the past. We don't keep players that aren't happy. We would get decent money for him, more than we paid for him if we moved him on. He's shown that he's a classy operator. But like anything else, I think the way Ange views things is you're either in or out. So if anything from Giakoumakis is displayed that he isn't fully committed to the club moving forward, there will be no surprise if he goes in January.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll obviously keep a close eye on it, but it'll be interesting to see how that...
Heavy work to be done if he does go.
Very much so, but knowing Ange, I'd say that work's been done. Yeah. Those are obviously the two guys that have been spoken about the most, but bids, I think, will come in for some of our players in January. There's serious talent and serious potential in Celtic squad at the moment. But what if a Carter Vickers, an O'Reilly or a Hatate were to leave? Do you think we've got the strength and depth around that?
Listen, Tino, I'm in a good mood.
Let's try and keep it that way. Yeah.
You're not going to like my next question.
Not in January. Summertime, maybe, with more time.
Listen, I think...
But there will be offers.
Those
definitely.
Ange doesn't do anything by accident. He's prepared us for this. The statement that he made, I think, October, November time.
Yeah.
This is the way it's going to be. So whoever it is, if somebody's going to go and it's the best thing, Ange feels it's the best thing for the club, they'll go. The nature of football is you have your favourites and the players that you like, you get attached to. It's been that way for the game started playing. But I think Ange coming out with that statement is to try and get us a wee bit more hard-nosed when it comes to that and realise that players will come and go, possibly more often than we've been used to in the past. Albeit, I state the point again, the thing that really, really hampered us at a critical point in the club's history was with too many players that didn't want to be there. And we tried to keep them, we tried to appease them rather than go and invest in people that were hungry and wanted to be successful. So I just think whoever it is, whether it's Kyogo, whether it's Carter Vickers, whether it's Matt O'Reilly, that their time will come. No. So for me, I just think I don't want to be picking up the newspaper or going online and reading the latest link with our star player. I don't want that, but if that does happen, it's because it's been engineered to happen, and we will. I have faith and trust that we will have a replacement ready to go. You mentioned there about if Giakoumakis does go, I think that work will already have been done to identify the replacement.
Yeah, so I would say for guys like Carter Vickers and Hatate, rightly or wrongly, I think strikers are easier to replace than centre halves and centre mids. You know,
putting the ball in the net, James, it's the hardest thing in football.
Yeah, but I think that they're individualistic strikers, whereas your centre midfield, your centre half, they need to be team guys. You know, they need to know the system, who they're playing with, all that stuff. I would say that it's easier to replace a striker. For what it's worth, I think Carter Vickers is the guy that you give as many years to as you want in terms of, I think you can just build a spine or a defence around him. Hatate slightly different, being a flair player. I think you just give him the creative licence and probably within the next few years he will get a move, a considerable move, both in terms of value and the club that he moves to, because I think he is that good. If he just decides to be that good for 90 minutes and 10 games in a row, because he's absolutely irresistible when he's on form.
Yeah. Different kind of question for you within this subject of the loss of key personnel. I can handle losing Juranovic, Giakoumakis, CCV,
no, don't do
O'Reilly,
I know where he's going.
Is there any chance that Ange Postecoglou leaves Celtic before the end of this season?
Nah, I think, you know, he's not in it for the money. He's well paid. He's been well paid over his career. He's got a challenge and he's enjoying that challenge. As soon as that challenge diminishes, he'll go. That's not what it is yet.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Miff?
Yes. I don't see him leaving before or at the end of the season. However, as we've seen, is what happened with Roger, it can happen. It can happen. I don't think it will, but it can.
It was behind the scenes stuff. There was real disharmony there. Rodgers and Peter Law. That's not there just now, you know. Well, Peter's back.
Pedro's back. Pedro's back.
You've heard managers talking recently though about being all in, James. I'm here on a project. Hey, listen,
I'm here, you're here.
I'm not going to jump ship here. I'm all in on this project.
Who would say such a thing?
Until I'm not. So this takes me nicely to the next section, and it's about the opposition. So I'll come to you first, Miff. Have you seen anything from any of our opponents in Scottish football, first of all, to make you think there's a threat there, either in the league or in the cups?
Like James says, in terms of cups, the threat that exists is just having a bad 90 minutes or 45 minutes where something stupid happens and you get yourself out the game. I think in the league we've built a solid lead. You just don't know what sort of effect. Let's talk specifically about Rangers. You don't know what sort of effect the new manager's going to have. It could galvanise them in the short term, and in the short term there's a run of fixtures which are difficult for us, and we have to go to Ibrox. So if that has that positive effect on them, it could negatively impact on us. I think what I always go back to is just the merit and the credit that Ange has built in his time at the club, which just gives you that sort of unshakable faith in us and what we do, which makes me less concerned about what others do, because what the others would have to do would have to be pretty miraculous if that was going to impact on us. However, the lesson should be learned from the St Mirren game, that if we do things in a certain way and feel that we can coast in certain games, then we will get punished, because if we come up against a highly motivated opponent, whoever that might be, they'll seek to punish us. And you only need to look at that St Mirren game as a classic example of that. With something like 75% possession, but we're just generally quite poor and looked sluggish on the day. If that happens again, there's nothing to say that St Mirren themselves or Aberdeen on Saturday wouldn't do the same.
It's a very good point. I mean, you were annoyed, Miff, when I suggested that St Mirren game was one of the most important games of the season, because it gave Celtic, James, West End nonsense, I think he called it. It gave Celtic a good wake-up call at a good time.
Son Pat Niven would say.
But we've since got to the break with 14 wins out of 15, James, and I think I'd far rather take a defeat to St Mirren, what was it, maybe 6 or 7 games into the season, something like that, to give us a bit of a wake-up call. Two things. Tells Ange that he can't make so many changes. Rotation is fine within reason. And it also told the players that they can't just turn up and beat anybody, whether they're St Mirren or anyone else in the league. James, I'll come to you just more directly on Rangers and their new manager. So the media here would have you believe he's some sort of cross between Pep, Alex Ferguson and David Copperfield. They've just fawned over this guy. What do you think, and do you think he'll have a positive impact?
We don't know, I suppose, is the answer. All I would say, Dave, if you can beat this out, he talks some amount of he really does. And he talks too much for a manager. Managers should be more reserved and do their talking on the pitch. I think that's an indicator that he's a bit flash, he's a bit overconfident. The biggest problem at Rangers is their squad management. It's been appalling over the last years, because they did what McCann wouldn't do and put all their eggs in the stop the 10 basket, and this has left them skint and contracts all over the place. Even if Beale is this, cross of Pep and Ferguson and the rest, there's going to be so many players going out in the summer, and what that does is it takes you into a period in the season when I don't want to get injured, I want to get my move, I'm not that motivated, who's this new guy, don't like him, never liked him first time. We just don't know, but the signs are no.
He's full of buzzwords, Miff. He's I don't know if he's moonlighting as a motivational speaker. There's been the David Brent comparisons, but he's coming out with all these really kind of cringy terms, and I think he believes his own hype, and I think he's setting himself up for a big fall.
I think he's in the level of self-confidence / arrogance. Let's use a Scottish word and go gallousness that he's shown.
I think that's quite complimentary.
Somebody that knocked back Wolves, subsequently ran QPR into the ground, to be fair, but then he's gone back to a club that he's had an association with. I think for him, the lure of potentially being somebody that returns Rangers to the heights that they were at in the COVID season.
To win one trophy,
to win that trophy. Well, still,
But I'm okay with that if they go and that's the heights they win.
At the end of the day, he's fully aware of how big a club Rangers are, right? Even being at our scathing and patronising best, you acknowledge that they've got a massive fan base in Scotland, and the lure of him being the man that leads them to glory is obviously the thing. Having experienced it almost second hand is the thing that's brought him back. I just find the whole thing quite intriguing as to you had the potential to go to the Premier League, didn't take it. Okay, because you're really believing in the QPR project. Yes, I did use that word. However, then in a matter of weeks, you then take the Rangers job. And listen, right, Rangers are our rivals, that's fine. But that just makes no sense to me. It just makes no sense at all.
For a career plan?
I mean that for the point of view that you would normally take the Rangers job if you wanted to get to the Premier League. He's managing the Championship with a view to getting the Premier League, albeit Wolves are now the most glamorous of clubs.
Still there.
But I'd imagine in January to get money to spend, he can't have money to spend in January here because there isn't any to spend. So it's, for me, I'm genuinely intrigued as to see how this plays out.
Very much so. And when he fails here, James, where's next for a guy that makes that move and shows chairman around the country that he's willing to jump at the next shiny new penny and come up here and just throw all these principles out the water? What's your term? If you don't like my principles, it's okay. I've have others.
You look to the career past of guys like Ian Cathro. When a coach tries to become a manager and fails, he becomes a coach for the rest of his career. He won't go back to management if he doesn't make it at Rangers.
It's interesting. I mean, there's obviously the 9-point gap. Do you think they can push us and put pressure on us in any way? Keeping in mind that we'll likely play them 3 more times in the league. I'm very much looking forward to the 2nd of January. And, it's such a tall order. He's coming up here at a very hard time. And I don't know if their board have given him assurances on the time he'll get, but you kind of don't get that time in Glasgow regardless.
Anyone with any sense would have to give him time to build from the youth up, because they've not got the dough to buy it in. So he couldn't just be giving them short term. They need to give him I think they gave him a 3.5 year deal, which is madness.
I think he knows a good clutch of the squad well. So I think the theory for the board would be that you get that new manager bump invariably that happens when new manager comes in. It will just be based on how the players are going to take to him. Second time around, who knows what that's got to be like. I think Rangers' biggest problem, and I don't know if he'll be back in January or when the league starts again, is Goldson, and I think their defence is their biggest issue. So I don't really think it matters how well they're coached, or I think their defence remains a big issue for them.
Yeah. Moving on from all that talk, is there anyone else you think may be a threat? So obviously we've got Aberdeen on Saturday, they're 3rd in the league. There's a couple of other teams. St Johnstone made a bit of a push into the top 6. As we've all agreed, cups are cups and anything can happen on the toss of a coin as such, but over the piece, is there anyone that would threat what we're trying to do?
We just need to be supremely focused every single game, because at Livy away, they're sitting with 4th, I think, are they? 4th or 5th in the league?
They're in the top 6 anyway, yeah.
So at Livy away is always going to be tricky. Aberdeen away is tricky. Hearts is tricky. Hearts away, as we saw just a couple of months ago, or a month ago or so. So yeah, and these teams will all want to improve their own position to secure European football, top 6 football, whatever it may be. So we give Scottish football a hard time, but the split does motivate teams not to just drift out the rest of the season, to get into that 6 and perform for Europe and all these things. So, everyone's going to be motivated to do their bit, but if we do our bit, we should be all right.
And there is a long way to go, as I've said, if we're to get to the final of the cup competitions, and obviously we'll play out the league fixtures. It's 30 games. It's a lot of games to keep fully focused and keep your concentration and have that bit of luck, with injuries and different things. So it's an interesting one, and we'll see how it plays out. But the big question, I'm just looking for a straight yes or no. Will we win the treble this year?
Yes.
It's a yes for me.
So yes from me, you're going through. So let's see what the next few weeks and months bring, starting with this Saturday against Aberdeen.